All right, Coach. Thanks for joining me today on the Simple Coach to Coach interview. Appreciate you taking the time. Um, I was, just a couple of weeks ago or last week, whenever it was, I was in Virginia for the for an ECNL tournament and um, happened to stop by your the school and take a look around and then I think we sort of got connected that way. And I thought, oh, this would be a great talk. So really looking forward to today. Um, so you've been the head coach at Randolph-Macon since 2015, and even prior to that, I mean, you've had a really great amount of success. Maybe you could just start by just talking about sort of how you ended up at Randolph-Macon, your experience through soccer, and sort of your journey to this point.
Yeah. I kind of got into coaching by accident. I played soccer at Randolph-Macon. I'm from Pennsylvania, but I came down to Randolph-Macon and played soccer here. And then upon graduation, I became like sort of a part-time assistant while I was getting my master's degree. And as I became the assistant coach, we just had a really good group here at Randolph-Macon at the time. Some real characters on those teams, and we had some good success. So I started to kind of be like, oh, I can do this. It's not that hard, but that's what all the assistants think, right?
Yeah, this is
So
easy.
yeah, that's how I thought when I was the assistant. Being the assistant is great. You don't have any pressure on you really. So I was just kind of like, this is easy. Um, and after a couple years here, we had some good teams. We had, like I said, we had a lot of success. And then the Hampton-Sydney job opened, and that's our arch rival. So our athletic director now, Jeff Burns, he was an assistant athletic director back then. This is 2004. He's like, you have to apply, but they'll never hire you. They can't. They cannot hire a Randolph-Macon guy. So I applied, and then I got an interview, and I was like, well, I got an interview. And then I did well on the interview. I really, I enjoyed the interview process, and, I probably got a little bit lucky. The president there, Walter Bortz at the time, and the athletic director, Joe Bush, the vice president, Paul Baker, those guys were just, and the head of admissions, Anita Garland. I mean, they were kind of making the call, and, they took a chance on me. I don't know why, because I know that some of the alumni didn't like that. Some of the alumni at Hampton-Sydney, they didn't like that. Randolph-Macon, why are we bringing a Randolph-Macon guy in here? Yeah. So I kind of always had something to prove, like right away. And my first year we were terrible. And they gave me a raise. They gave me a raise for being terrible. So, And I thought, the athletic director brought me in. He's like, "You're doing a great job." I said, "Coach, we're terrible." And he said, "No, you're doing a great job. Like you're the guy. Here's a raise." And then after that, we sort of took off for a long time there. We had one of the better teams in the ODAC, and we crushed it for a while. And then like in some programs, we took a little dip for a year, but then we came back around. And then 2015, the Randolph-Macon job, opens up, and I was ready to leave Hampton-Sydney, to be honest with you. Just the athletic director that hired me was no longer there, and it was just kind of, I loved the players and the kids, and it was just time to go. How many times do you get a chance to come back and coach at your alma mater? So I got hired here, and later, like in January, I got hired. So it's not the best time in the recruiting sense, and the program had been struggling. The program here has an unbelievable tradition of success, but the program had been struggling for about 8-9 years. So I came in and got the job, like I said, in January, and there were some good players here. I inherited. It's not like I just waved the magic wand and we started getting good. Like there were some players here. Like I'm fully aware of that, but we didn't have enough of them. and I don't think we had enough, just direction. So when I got in here, like we put together this like makeshift recruiting class in one sense, but in the other sense, we got some of these guys that were really good players, but they maybe weren't off of the high-profile club teams. They were a little bit marginalized, maybe even at their own club. They had a little bit like me back at Hampton-Sydney. When I started, they had a little bit something to prove. So we brought a big class in. I don't know how we did it. It was a lot of work. And, we started to get the program rolling a little bit faster than I thought. I think we won like 9 games that year, my first year, which was like triple the amount of wins that the team had been winning. And after that started to take off a little bit. And, we're still moving along, but we're not where we want to be, but we're a heck of a lot better than we used to be.
Yeah. Hey, could you just talk? You mentioned this by going to Hampton-Sydney, how you had you felt like you had something to prove. Was that just more of a personal thing, or was there definitely?
Yeah, well, I mean, I felt like I always feel like I have something to prove. You know what I mean? Because as a young player, I was a basketball player and a soccer player, and I was actually better at basketball than soccer, but I didn't get good at those sports till a little bit later. So I was sort of the kid that didn't get a lot of playing time in basketball until like 8th grade, and then I just took off and I played in high school. In soccer, I played for FC Delco when FC Delco was FC Delco before ECNL and all that other stuff. But before that, I used to try out for what Delco Select.
Yeah.
I always got cut. But then a new coach came in from Ohio, and he believed in me. He picked me. And not only did he pick me, he made me the captain.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I just had something to prove to those guys that always cut me all the time. I was sort of like, but I also felt like I had something to prove to the guy that took me under his wing.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, wait, they got it wrong. I felt the same way at Hampton-Sydney.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, on one hand, I know some of the alumni didn't want me there early. Some were really great. Some were awesome. Yeah. But some were like, they didn't want me there. But I felt like, the athletic director, Joe Bush, the president, the vice, I felt like I had something to prove to them also.
Yeah.
And then, when we got spanked that first year, I mean, we were 3-11-3. We weren't good. Then it was like, whoa, it's not that easy. And I really got something to prove. So that's sort of, where I kind of developed that. I feel like I have something to prove today also, like right now, and maybe even in this interview. I always feel that way. I think it started from my youth sports experience. Yeah. And then it kind of just goes on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. There's, I always said that I played with a chip on my shoulder because, my experience, my background playing in Spain, nobody knew me when I came here to the States, and I knew and thought I was good, and it was like, I have to show that to everyone else to do that. And every game, it was about me just proving it to everyone that I am that good. I'm a player. So, since you've been doing this for so long, and two schools similar in similar schools. I don't want to get in the middle of the rivalry here, but is there? Do you? The players that you recruited, whether at Hampton-Sydney, when you started at Hampton-Sydney, and to the players you're recruiting now for Randolph-Macon, are they different? Are they better, more tactical now or technical now versus when you first started recruiting?
No.
They're the same players?
I mean, the players are good now. The players were good then. Mm-hmm. They came from different pathways. That's before we had 75 different leagues and 3,000 showcases, where the leagues sort of never even play each other. It was a little bit different finding players. Then I think it was a little bit easier finding players because they were all at the same events. There maybe even were less of them. But I don't think the players now. I think the players now are great, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they're any better than those guys that I had when I started. I had some unbelievable players. I
Yeah.
mean, I had I had a kid that transferred into Hampton-Sydney, and we didn't get a lot of transfers there, and we don't get a lot here at Randolph-Macon either. But he was the Atlantic 10 Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, we I don't think the players now are any better than they were
Yeah.
then. I just think there's always been good players, and
Yeah.
there's good players now, and there was good players then.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Let me ask you, and at Hampton Sydney, if you felt that way at any given point, was there a point where you thought, okay, I have the program where I want it to be built by me? That's that I'm the guy who did that, whether it's at Hampton Sydney or at Randolph Macon. Do you have a sense like the program is where you want it to be? Now it's just a matter of bringing in the recruits to keep it going.
Nah, it's never where I want it to be, which is
Mm-hmm.
like not a good, maybe a good way to live.
Yeah.
It's never where I want it to be. It's we had a great program there. We have a great program here. We're moving. Our thing here is like, if you told me that we would be where we are now when I took the job at Randolph-Macon, I would be ecstatic. I'd be like, oh, really? We're going to be relevant,
Yeah.
But now that we're there and we're towards the top end of the league and we sort of crawled out from that basement,
Yeah.
it's like not enough,
Yeah.
for me and,
Yeah.
for my guys. And we're sort of at that point, like we don't want to take any steps back because that can happen.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get to like that like next 5% to be
Yeah.
like, truly an elite program. But
Yeah.
like that's been harder than turning it around. Turning it around, I'm not saying it was easy. There's a lot that goes into that. But now to get to that like level where we're like a top 15, top 20 program every year, we're knocking on the door. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
That's been, that's why it's never real. It doesn't. I don't know. But then again, we could be number 4 in the country, and I would want to be number 3, number 2. So it's just never really felt like that sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like I said,
That's
it's not
true.
necessarily a good way to be, but
No.
it's just the way I'm wired.
Well, you know what? We live in it's a competitive sport, and if you're not competing to always win and to always be better, and then maybe you're got the wrong profession, right? That's the way I would look at it. And I could totally see, like, yeah, you're 4th. Why aren't we 3rd? Or
Yeah.
when we're 3rd, why aren't we 2nd? So I totally get that. Yeah, I asked this of another couple coaches because everyone talks about it, and I never really ask about it. But do you have like an organized leadership group aside from your captains for your team?
No, I don't believe in them
No.
because I want all my guys to be leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and I expect those guys when they graduate from here to go and be leaders. And I don't know if they're not. If I make some type of leadership council, apart from captains, I'm not really sure. Like, then how am I cultivating the other guys that aren't on the council as leaders?
Mm-hmm.
So I will, certainly seek the opinion of certain guys that I view as influential guys on our team because they're high character and maybe
Right.
they've been around with us for a while and they know what it takes. And I may ask them, their opinion on anything, but it's not it's not an organized leadership council. It's just I just don't believe in that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's the reason I don't believe in it is that I need all my guys to be leaders, and I don't want to certainly exclude guys from a leadership council. Being a captain is different. I mean, being a captain here, it's actually kind of hard being a captain here. I always ask guys if I'm going to make him a captain. You sure you want me to make you a captain? Because the expectations on my captains are immense. And sometimes their performance goes down a little bit, to be honest, because there's so much on them. I want to make sure their performance doesn't go down because that's the only leadership group that we have that's official in name. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it totally does. How many captains do you usually have? 2, 3?
2 to 3.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you just about the time period during COVID. Like, was how difficult, easy, was it fun for you, your program, your guys,
No,
and how you navigated
it was
it?
terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, my guys did a great job, and I became a way better coach because we had the guys August, September, October,
Mm-hmm.
November, a little bit of December. We have a January term here, January, February,
Mm-hmm.
March, all the way through. We're
Mm-hmm.
coaching and we're training, and we were able to actually develop players, which we can't really do that as much. Players develop in the sports performance programming and the weight room, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
really develop as much in the actual season. You're managing injuries. You got four
Yeah.
games in 7 days. But
Right.
during the COVID time, the only thing that I enjoyed about it was the consistency of training. And
Mm-hmm.
then we actually, in the ODAC, we had a real conference season.
Mm-hmm.
And what was kind of cool about it, though, was it was spread out. So, I think we only had 2 games in the 7-day period once. And some days we had 10 days between games. And it was like we could really sort of train and behave like a pro team would with that amount of
Mm-hmm.
time off, and getting the guys rejuvenated that had played in the games, and getting the guys like really getting after it that hadn't played in the games. And
Mm-hmm.
then by midweek, everybody getting on that same physical timetable, right? And then getting after it together for a couple days, and then getting ready for the next game.
Yeah.
So there was some enjoyable stuff in that sense, but that was it. I mean,
Yeah.
the rest of it was just horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Did, let, that's really interesting. Like, what did you see a noticeable difference between your players as just that window where you're able to train and you have the time? Did you see your players improve noticeably
A
because
hundred
of that?
percent, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're actually, having days where we're doing small group. And when I say small group, I mean maybe like 2-man, 3-man, like intense technical work. And then the next day we're playing, and then the next day we're in small sided games, and the next day we're full field, and then we're back to technical work, and then we were able to train in blocks of players, like we were able to work with our backs. There were days where we staggered to practice where we trained the defenders for an hour and a half, and then we trained everybody else for an hour and a half. Or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was really kind of cool in that sense, and I definitely saw guys get a lot better. Where I think that I don't know that we fell short, but the weight room was sort of off limits.
Yeah.
So we didn't get the benefits of the weight room. Now, Randolph-Macon did something pretty cool. They made an outdoor weight room. But I didn't even want to deal with that because, contact tracing was insane, and you had to go into like a little pod to put some of the weights away. And I was like, I don't want to have 3 guys go into a pod one day and then get a phone call that they're in a hotel for 10 days. So we just did every single thing we did: sports performance training, soccer training, meetings, everything was on our field.
Yeah.
That was it.
Wow.
But we
Wow,
did
I'm
lose
sure-
the benefits of a good sports performance training. I mean, that stuff shouldn't be discounted as how important it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I just think there's a lot of coaches that would have loved to have been in your position for that COVID year because other folks had almost next to nothing, right? Like the ability to train. So, I mean, that's pretty good. So I got to ask then now that you did that, you had that experience over that extended period of time. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, it's been tabled, but that Project 21st Century, where they're saying they want to extend the Division I programs, mostly it seems, want to extend the season out.
Well, it sort of ties into, I think you're probably going to ask me about the new overtime.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like it all ties in the sense that our season is too short. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be as long as what they proposed,
Right.
but I feel like the reason they're cutting overtime is because the games are so close together. There's everyone preaches player safety, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you've got guys that could be playing 110 minutes, 2 games in a row or whatever, but it wouldn't be an issue if the season was an extra 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, I'm not sure the exact length of a men's and women's lacrosse season, but I know it's longer than, well, I say I know. I'm almost 100% sure it's longer than soccer.
Right.
And I feel like if we just had an extra several weeks, I mean, we're trying to jam 17, 18 games into like a really small window here. And, you know, you could get banged up pretty bad in that first week, and that can wreck your season. You know, you're balancing, like, how many games, like, we're going to play 17 games next year, not 18. And I'm even, like, thinking 17 feels too many. You know, there's no break. It's just the season should be longer, and it's not. And whether it should go all the way through the spring or not, I mean, I don't really know. But, I mean, I certainly think that it should start, at minimum, it should start earlier, like in August. It should start. Or it should just go longer. It's ridiculous what we ask these kids to do in such a short amount of time, and then wonder why guys are getting banged up all the time.
I just remember, like, 4 months, 5 months out of the year were like perpetual soreness and pain and recovering from it. Like, you know, starting in August, like within a week, there was just your body, you're just starting to wear. And then by the end of the season, it's like you can, you know, it takes you an hour to warm up because your shoulder, I'm a goalkeeper, so shoulders, hip, like just hurting all over the place and trying to play for it, right? And get up for it, and get up for a game. Do you think the overtime changes that are you gonna, because they're not regular season overtime, and I asked this because you had 3 ties this year. Do you think that's going to change the way you coach games? Do you know 20 minutes left? Are you going to go for it a little bit harder than you would if there was...
Because I mean, we're always trying to end it in regulation anyway, but these, you know, there's going to be so many ties, man. I mean, it's going to be, winning percentages are going to be affected dramatically, but more importantly, conference standings. It's going to be weird. I'm curious what it's going to be like, because sometimes, like, there's a great game can end in a tie, right? But like after 110 minutes, you're like, okay. But after 90 into college level, it's going to be strange. I mean, I kind of understand why they did it on one hand, but I'm definitely going to miss like those walk-off goals, the celebrations. I don't know how many ties that would be on my record if we didn't have overtime. I mean, they're, you know, and it's going to be interesting because, you know, a tie is worth 33% of a win at one point. So these standings are going to be really sort of out of whack next year. We'll have to go for it, you know, but, you know, wins become even, you know, you got to get
more valuable, even though the points, you're right.
Ties. The win is like way more valuable than it was 3 months ago. Because now you're gonna have ties. Good teams are gonna have. Wait till you see I would love to see the records at the end of the year. You see teams with 6 wins that might have had 10, but they got 5 ties, 4 ties. It's gonna happen.
That I agree with. I do think that instances of ties are gonna jump up. I have to say, like, on the one side, I'm like, the drama of it all in an overtime game, it doesn't matter. Like, that's a part I'll miss. You know, just the anxiety. You know, like all of those things that make up overtime. Again, it could just be an out of conference game. It doesn't matter. There's something about it that just sort of charges people up, right? And
overtime was the way it used to be. Was crazy. I mean, it was crazy on all ends. I mean, you're like living on that edge the whole time. Anything can one nick of a ball. You win or lose. You know, it's that quick. It's that final. So that's gone.
Yeah. Hey, do you have any for the program and players that are coming into it? Do you have any non-negotiables, like things that you know? I'll just say rules that, you know, if you're going to be a part of the team, you have to abide by certain rules, or?
I mean, we just have one main rule: don't embarrass the program. I mean, don't embarrass the program. But for something specific, I mean, for me, the big non-negotiable, the reason that we survive here at Randolph-Macon with our team and we're able to play at a respectable level, trying to get to the elite level, is our team chemistry. So if there's a guy that's a team chemistry killer, he's out of here. Now, we've been really lucky. But I'm not one that gets rid of players. But I will get rid of a guy for being a team chemistry killer. Our team is built and run by team chemistry. Kids can see that when they visit. Our players feel it, and we listen. GMs in the NFL get it wrong, but we try to be really careful who we bring in the first place. There are kids that we don't bring in. They're not bad kids, maybe necessarily, but they're not a good fit for us on a chemistry standpoint. They might be a good fit for us on a soccer standpoint, and that's risky because we end up playing against those dudes, you know. But if I lose the chemistry, I lose my team. It's over. So we've got to keep what we like in 2019, right? We had some injuries, like every coach says. We started the league off 0-3, but we won our next 5 games. And we ended up with 15 points in the conference. I mean, this year we only had 16 points or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not that much different than this year. So it's like there's no way in the world we'll pull that off, starting off 0-3, and then went rattling off 5 in a row without chemistry. So, you can't be a team chemistry killer. You got to be bought in. You got to be there for the good of the group. And being there for the good of the group doesn't mean you can't care about yourself. Doesn't mean you shouldn't want to start. Doesn't mean you shouldn't want to make an impact. It just means you in the process of pursuing those goals, you cannot bring the group down. To playing time, of being all conference, of whatever. Yeah.
It's like you could compete, but you can't be vindictive about things, right? Like you just gotta. It's competition. Hey, this just dawned on me. Doesn't the ODAC has sort of like a strange way to manage the conference, right?
Yeah. Well, I started that, to be honest, and I regret it now. It's a mistake. It's a big mistake. People don't want to hear me say that, but I started it back when I was at Hampton-Sydney, like the movement of it all, right? And other coaches jumped in and did a great job with it in the conference, but our conference is too good not to be getting multiple teams in the NCAA tournament. It's a joke. It's a joke. So we have to manipulate the schedule to increase strength of schedule numbers. Because the bigger the league, the lower your strength of schedule numbers are going to be, because too many teams are bringing losses to the table because they're losing games in the league.
It's just natural, right? It's just a natural,
So originally, sort of what I had proposed, I wish I could still have the email, but it was basically a copy of what the ACC was doing at the time, playing 8-game schedule, which made sense then. But since then, the league has grown, and now we have we're going to have 13 teams again next year. So then we were doing an 8-game schedule with more teams, and then you weren't playing 4 people or whatever it was, and that's way too small of a sample size. Once the conference grew, right? Now you've got standings that are all over the map. I mean, you might have a team that doesn't play the first and second place team in the league, and then you might have a team that has to play the big dogs, or you might have a team that doesn't play the bottom 2 teams in the league. Right. Well, that's 6 points potentially off the table. So the standings are out of whack. So every year we change it because every year it seems like we add a team. Emory and Henry left the conference, and we're going to play a 10-game schedule next year, but it's weighted. So I weighted, just for those who may not understand that, it's like the teams that have finished at the top for the last several years are going to get the harder conference schedule. So we're in that category. I mean, that's pretty tough when, we're not too far off of a team that might be right below us. And now they're going to have a way easier conference schedule. So to say I hate it the way we're doing it now is an understatement, and it's my own fault. And it's my own fault. And it sort of is a necessary evil to get more teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
But I just think there needs to be a better way of selecting the teams is what it comes down
Yeah.
to. You know,
Yeah,
some leagues are getting 5 teams in. You know,
Yeah.
we're lucky to get 2 right now, and I
Yeah.
think we're way better than that.
Yeah,
Then you can say, well, this league, they had 3 teams in the Sweet 16. I'm not talking about the NESCAC. Take them off the table because that's just a different animal. Well, yeah, they had 3 teams in the Sweet 16, but they had 5 teams in the NCAA tournament. You know,
Yeah.
and 2 of them played each other in the round of 32, so someone had to
Yeah.
go. You know, it's just one of those things. Like, we're not getting enough teams in for the caliber of teams that we have.
Yeah. That's
I
interesting.
don't see it changing, but that's the reality.
That's interesting because I started asking not so much about ODAC, but like there are like the Western teams. Why aren't there more Western teams? And I think it's the same. They basically, they end up by nature they end up beating each other silly, until that basically the Sweet 16 starts.
But
And
then there's the other trick too, right? Like if
Yeah.
if my school is up in the Mid-Atlantic region more, I can go find a team that's going to win 12 games from a bad league,
yeah,
smack them, and boost
Yep.
my strength of schedule. That's
Yep.
the game that people play.
yeah,
And they're smart to do it, but
Yeah.
who are we really going to do that with here in Richmond, Virginia?
Here, you can't.
We just don't have access to that many schools. I mean, you have schools in New England, they can ride their bike to the other school if they really wanted to. And
Yeah.
some of those schools are teams that win a lot, but they may not be, as good as some of the ODAC teams.
Yeah.
Teams that we play non-conference.
Yeah, that's true too, right? Like your numbers are again the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, the different sort of animals. But not only are you more limited in the schools you can play, but also within your own conference, which makes up a majority of what games you would probably play. Those are tough games, right? Like there's no way you can sort of easily construct a schedule to get you to the NCAA and not
It's
kill
really
yourself.
hard. Here,
Not
listen to
kill
this. Listen to this. This is kind of crazy. One year we played Rowan, Mary Washington, and Gettysburg in the same year. And our strength of schedule went up like 0.02 of a point from the year before. So why do we play them?
Why do you play them?
We already have to play Lynchburg, Washington LA, Hampton Sydney, Roanoke, Randolph, whoever, right? All these, Virginia Wesleyan, all these teams are good. So it was like, we're killing ourselves for 0.02 of a point. We didn't even get the reward, the mathematical reward. We might have played Mary Washington also that year. So it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So let me ask, what sort of expectations do you think you have for I keep thinking next year, and it's not in 2.5 months. Like, I mean, that's crazy how time has flown, but do you have any sense as to where you're thinking you want the team to be, or where you're hoping it's going to be, and where you're going to get to?
I mean, we're like a really process-driven program, so I want our guys to like continue to value like each day of the process and the different the process changes and different times of the year. We're doing different things, but I think we're always very good defensively. We had 9 shutouts this year. I want us to continue to be really good defensively, but this past season, we just weren't vicious enough in the final 20 yards. Whereas like in the COVID season, we were scoring goals. Our guys were like yelling spurtability because we would score like 2 goals in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And our team this past year, 2021, was much better. Fall 2021.
Yeah.
Was much more organized, much more controlled. If you watched us and you're like kind of a soccer nerd, I call them, right? You'd be like, wow, they move the ball well. They keep the ball. But you know what? Sometimes that stuff's overrated. Like, you don't score goals, right? Yeah. And I know we had 10 wins, but I feel like we should have had 13 or 14 wins. And some of our wins that we had were close games, and they didn't need to be. And we got knocked out in the playoffs. Virginia Wesleyan, they played a great game. And we had the ball a lot. And people were like, oh, you guys had the ball so much, and dominated the game. I'm like, no, we didn't. We lost the game. We lost the game. They got up early. They had their game plan, which was a good game plan, and we looked good, but we didn't really start generating crazy goal scoring opportunities until the last 10 minutes of the game. Like, it just felt like we were going to win, but the bottom line is we did not. So I would sacrifice some of that possession for a little bit more creativity and drive in the last 20 yards like we had in that COVID season. But we have to stay as solid and consistent and as organized as we were defensively this last year. We were just so consistent. I mean, we gave up very few soft.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
We didn't. We did not give up. There weren't a lot of times. I mean, some of the goals we gave up. I mean, there's nothing you're going to do about them. But the team was very, very good at defending and using our defending to generate attack. But it was just once we got in that 20, we had the players for it. But I didn't think we were as good as we were a few months earlier in the COVID season, or even in 2019, in terms of the attack.
Yeah, I always say, and sometimes I forget too, like, because of the things I like about the game. This ultimately is about a game of goals. It is not a game of anything else other than goals. How many goals can you score? And I have to remind myself, even because it is something that you can, hate to say it, forget, right? Like you're everything you do is to build to a goal, but you're not thinking of this is just how do I get goals? And how do I get in front of the goal to score goals?
No, you're right. And at Randolph-Macon, like, the thing is, if we can just do what we did in the COVID season, because we're so good defensively, because we can keep the ball, and we can slow the game down with the way we keep the ball or speed it up.
Yeah,
we can rip people apart if we can get up on them. But when you leave these games at 1-1 or only up 1-0 or 0-0, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So we're not taking full advantage of a lot of our strengths, and we need to get better in that final 20 yards. It's not a lack of finishing ability; it's a lack of just getting. I don't know what it is, but it's got to get a little bit better for us.
Killer instinct, right?
Yep.
Killer instinct. Like I always just say, we scored a goal. We're going to score a second one and a third one, and until we're just not going to stop, right? And you have to have almost like that desire to just crush your opponent and take advantage of the opportunities to do so. So we talked about the conference, the way you guys have it, ODAC, and look, you mentioned some of them, the great teams that are there. Obviously Washington and Lee is, because of how far they went in the tournament and how good they were. But Lynchburg, Roanoke, Virginia Wesleyan, Hampton, Sydney. I'm just curious, like, what do you do for your team to be intense during those, to get that intensity for those games, right? Like, because I think conference play is a lot different, for obvious reasons, than regular season or the non-conference games. And so, what are some of the things that you do to get these guys up for, in its own right, a really challenging conference schedule?
Yeah, well, you're right about number one. The conference is a different animal than a non-conference game. One, I try to recruit the right kids on the front end that have that competitor's mentality. Okay. Two, we have like a turn the page mentality. Like, hey, we get picked off in a game, we can learn from it, but we have to move on. We can't be thinking about that game. But it's the same thing if we win a big game. We won a couple big games this year. It's a nice little bus ride home. Tell the guys that, have fun on the bus, and then, start getting your body ready for the next game. So you got to have that turn the page mentality. Now our guys aren't dumb, and we explained to them, especially with this unbalanced weighted schedule that we're playing, this insane schedule that we're playing. Every game is just so important. So I don't do that to add stress to them, but I think that cranks up intensity or the value of the game really matters. And now it matters even more with this tie thing, right? With this no overtime deal. So I don't really have, like, my guys are kind of the kind of kids here at Randolph-Macon that you sort of have to dial them back, not dial them up.
Yeah.
And I love that because, like, some people don't like that, some people don't like that, or they want, like, the whatever. I don't know what they want, but whatever. But my guys they're warriors, and sometimes that's, like, looked down upon, like, oh, the soccer purists are out there, like, you can only like play like that for so long. I mean, I want them to play with intention. I want them to make intentional runs and be technical. I just told you how well we keep the ball, but if you don't have that warrior spirit at first, like, what do you're not going to be very good. Maybe there's a few teams that are just so good, like when Tufts was winning all those. Maybe they were just that good. Maybe they had warrior spirit. I don't know because we don't play them, and I don't know. But for us, like, we try to find kids that have that edge in them first, and if they don't, and if we get the right guy, managing the the next game, the next intense game, like you said in the ODAC, it's not a problem because we're getting the right type of guy. But I mean, again, conference play is 100% different than non-conference play. How different it is.
Yeah, that is true. Again, just you said it there, with the tie changes, like that could really have a messy impact on that on conference play and dial them up even more in terms of intensity, because
it's going to have a real messy impact on ODAC conference play because now they're playing this weighted, unbalanced schedule. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, those conference standings are not going to reflect the true. It's not, especially with the top. I didn't think they were going to before.
Yeah.
But now, if there was ever an argument to reevaluate what the heck we're doing,
yeah.
I wish we could split into two leagues and still be like ODAC East and West or North and South like the MAC did. But apparently that's illegal. You can't do that. Which what they did was, genius. Because then we should be getting two automatic bids with the size of our league and the quality of our teams. There's some big leagues out there that aren't very good. We're not one of them.
Yeah.
So I wish we could do that. I don't understand why we can't. I know there's rules, but I feel like rules get rewritten all the time these days anyway. Yeah. So someone should be looking at that. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's going to be really interesting with the way we have constructed this schedule, and now you throw in this wrinkle with the ties.
Ties, yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you could have teams that are. I mean, if you play 8 games, I mean, you could legitimately see guys like, the top teams, something like 3-1 and 4.
Yeah, you could.
Like, hey, you're the champion. Like,
it's crazy. Great. I know.
Like, okay.
We're playing 10 next year. We're playing 10 because we added Averett, and that kind of threw off our numbers again. This year we were able to play 9. 9 is a number that does work with what we're trying to do, and it was it was a kind of a more even schedule. They tried to make the schedule even across the board. Nothing's totally even, but it was as even as you could make it. But now we've gone away from that. We're weighted. But I don't want to talk about our schedule.
Like I mentioned to you, this is a rabbit. This is the type of rabbit hole that one can go down, right? If we start talking. Hey, I just wanted to ask you, not to talk about them and to take up that much time, but Washington and Lee was outstanding this year. Made it to the semifinals. You played them. Was that quality that evident to you that they were that good?
They're good. We put together a good first half against them. Mm-hmm. We missed 2 chances inside of 12 yards, and they hammered us in the second half. They got a couple of special players, but they better. I mean, they're a national level school. Their assistant coach was a head Division I coach. For God's sake. And they got, what do they have, a $2 billion endowment or something? So
Yeah.
full need for every kid. I mean, they better be good, but some of their players are like, they have a couple next level kids for sure.
Yeah.
I don't mean next level like D1, because D1, that's a whole other. I'll go down that rabbit hole all day if you want to talk D1, D3 with me. But they got a couple studs. They got a kid in the middle of that Kukanzira kid. He's the real.
Yeah,
he killed us.
He's just so good.
That's we might have lost the game anyway, but he killed us on that day in the second half. He killed us by himself.
Yeah.
He killed us.
The kid, he's really special. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, I am too. I wish he was on my team. I like the way he plays. Anyway.
All right, so I'd like to, for a little bit, if you're okay, the D1, D3 rabbit hole.
I'll go down it. Look, I don't know this D1 or bust mentality that's out there, right? Like we're all combating that.
Yeah.
Randolph-Macon, Washington Lee, whoever. We're all combating that in recruiting. And like, I don't know where it's coming from. Parents, clubs. I think a lot of it's coming from clubs and parents, because some of these kids don't even want to go down that route. Okay. Yeah. I always tell guys there's D1 and then there's D1. And what I mean by that is there's some programs out there that would not finish top 6 or 7 in the ODAC.
No.
But man, does the kid want to put it on his Instagram and go to the team that's 1-15 and is always 1-15. Not just everyone has a bad year. We could have. I'm not saying that, but it's a consistent program for decades. It can't win. And I tell kids, like, I don't say anything negative about the school that they commit to once they commit. But in the process, what I'll tell the kid is, you keep talking about D1, man, and one, you'll be lucky to play for us as a freshman. Two, you're gonna feel real good. You put it up on Instagram. I'm going to school X, blessed or whatever to be committing to Division One. You see it all the time, right? And it's like, but then you're gonna have in 2 weeks. You're gonna have that that oh crap moment.
Yeah.
We're not any good.
Yeah.
We can't win. I should have went to Lycoming. I should have went to Randolph-Macon. I should have went to SUNY Oswego. I should have went to Catholic. I should have went to Wheaton. I should have went to Lynchburg, Hampton City.
Yeah.
I don't know. You should have went there because that Instagram post goes away, and you now have 4 years of going to a school that can't play, and that's not better than some of the Division IIIs that were recruiting you in the first place. Yeah. And then you got on the other side, you got the guy that will just go to any D1 and be happy to be player 30 on the bench. Mm. And that's okay in some ways. Like, I get that if you're getting to go to an Ivy League school or something like I understand that. But you will get guys that do that are 4.0 students, 1,300 SATs, and they go to a low caliber academic school. Yeah. And it's like, why did you work that hard in high school? You could have went to Swarthmore, you could have went to Macon, you could have went to Gettysburg, whatever. And I know we're not on the level of Swarthmore in the sense of the ranking. Right. Maybe that wasn't. Yeah. But I know we're a great school. I get that. But my point is, you had all these awesome options. Yeah. Now you went to a school that's just academically does not fit what you've been able to achieve as a high school student. It just makes no sense to me. Yeah. Like I hope my daughter can go to a school like MIT or RPI or something like that. She's 11 and in the house, I tell her every day and she's like, come on. I'm like, it's MIT or bust. That's Division III. Okay. But it's like there's all these great opportunities out there, and sometimes D1 is the right fit, right? Yeah. But it kills me when these kids go and it's not the right fit. And everybody knows it. It's like everyone knows it but the kid. But he kind of knows it too. Yeah. But he's going to do it anyway. Yeah. It's like when you break a rule as a kid, like, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. That's what they do. Yeah. That's why the transfer portal is out of control.
Well, that's the other part to this, right? Like, hey, D1 or bust, I'm going D1. Hey, I just went D1. This sucks. I'm out of here. And just look at the transfer portal the last couple of years, right? I think that's a bit of COVID, but I think that sort of got guys who, I'm like, who start to think like, why am I doing this when I could
No doubt.
enjoy it a lot more if I go to Randolph-Macon
It is a
as an
lot
example.
it is a lot from COVID, but it's not at the same time. I bet you those numbers don't go down that much once this
No,
fifth year thing wears out and all that other
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Which,
yeah,
by the way, that fifth year, it ain't helping us
yeah.
because we don't have grad school
You don't have grad
and
school, yeah,
we don't have guys not graduating on time.
yeah.
So we just don't have guys that like want to
Well,
leave
that
those
says a lot
credits
about
in.
you academically, right? Where you're getting your kids through in the 4 years and they're done and you're out.
I got
Keep
one
going.
fifth
Hey,
year guy next
congratulations.
year.
Not in a bad way,
No,
right?
no,
Like,
no, not at all. But I got one fifth year. I listened to your interview with Nate Gibney. Nate's the man. And I listened to your interview and I was thinking, oh my God, it's just like what we're dealing with. But I got one fifth year guy next year, but his dad's our women's coach and he can live at home. It's like the perfect situation for him to do a fifth year, right? But I
Yeah.
got all these other guys, they'd love to do it. But like
Yeah.
without grad school, financially,
yeah,
maybe it makes sense for like one guy because he can also live at home or something like that.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
but other than that, some of these kids are leaving credits on the table
yeah,
and doing the fifth year.
yeah,
A lot, like I won't say, but there's some schools in our league that have that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what if you get hurt in the summer?
yeah,
Or and sometimes these fifth year guys, they're not as good as they were if you're going to do a fifth year, you need to do like what the kid at Randolph did. Evan Blow was a player of the year in the conference this year.
uh-huh.
I mean, he went and he made himself better again. Like you got to go all in.
You got to
the
go all
summer
in. It's
and
not
make
it's not a
yourself-
vacation
No, you got to make yourself
from
a
real
monster.
life. Yeah,
Otherwise, you're wasting your time and your teammates'
Yeah.
time, your coach's time. But man, the fifth year thing can be an advantage if you get kids that are doing what he did.
yeah,
I mean, think about it. We're going to have some guys on the field next year that are 18 years old. And they're going to be playing,
Yeah.
23, 24-year-olds?
23. Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, and they'll be fine. My guys will be fine. But
Yeah.
there is a physical difference there.
There is a.
So we just have to be better in other areas.
Well, like maturity, all those things where they don't get rattled as much. Like there's a lot of benefits to playing at 23 versus 18, right? Just that's why I think it's always surprises people professionally when you see, oh, he's 17, he's 18. They're like, oh my gosh, like how's he managing that? But yeah, I think the transfer portal thing is going to be real from now on. And I think, right, the fifth year, the super senior or grad student thing, to me, that's going to end logically when we cycled through all the classes that were impacted by COVID, right, and got the extra year. But I think the transfer portal, I think there is a veneer of Division I is so shiny and nice, but like you said, not everybody gets to go to UNC or
Right.
Maryland or Santa Clara or, that's not. The rest of them slog it out, and a lot of those don't even play good soccer. They just sort of battle each other till they're bloody. And I think guys realize that, like, wow, this, and they have to, they're committed for the 10 months, basically, right? I mean, they're as committed. They have to, the spring is not a spring of, spring's for all intents and purposes another season for them. So, I mean, again, I get the point of the Ivies. Like, yeah, you want to get to the Ivies, you want a best academic school, but if you're selling yourself short because you think the soccer experience is going to be all that greater, you're smoking something funny.
I agree with you on that. I think you got to look at what type of academic school you're going to for sure.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the fall? Do you have any sense as to where you think you guys are at after the spring season, or?
Yeah, actually, this spring we were a little bit better than we were in the fall. It was kind of weird because we had a great senior class, and we're losing a lot of guys, and those guys played like seniors this year. Because, a lot of people don't know this, but our team, we lost a couple key guys to injury this year, like right as our conference season was starting, and these are very influential players on our team in terms of how they play.
Yeah.
And we had some other guys step up. And one of those guys was a senior, Jake Miklovich. He ended up filling in at center back. And when I say filling in at center back, I mean dominating at center back. I mean, he was awesome. But we had some guys that were really, really stepped up as seniors. They came in fit. They came in ready. They did a great job. But we had some younger guys that, I'm not saying that they're better players than those guys, but they're really high-level players. And they didn't play that much. So now it's sort of their turn. We got some good recruits coming in, and the way we were playing this spring, again, you're just sort of playing yourself, really, like inter squad, small sided. But I just saw like a level of quality that made me excited. But ultimately, like as you mentioned with our league, how competitive it is and how good these teams are. I mean, some of this comes down to a bounce of a ball. Well, this isn't football, where like, hey, we might be better than this team, but since these games are 1-goal games, we may end up getting picked off a few times, which that really didn't happen to us this year. I felt that we lost the games we deserved to lose. But sometimes you feel like, oh my God, like if we were a lacrosse team, we would have won that game by 9.
Yeah.
Now we lost it. So, I thought our quality was a little better. Certainly we were more dangerous. Our movement was better this spring, but again, we weren't really tested against an outside opponent. We didn't even have a spring game, to be honest, because I lost my assistant. He moved on to Amherst, which is a great move for him.
Yeah.
He's a top-level assistant. I've been really lucky with the assistant coaches I have. We don't pay him enough, so we can't keep him. But I've had some really great assistant coaches. I had Corey Sindel. I had Andrew Schaefer. They both went to Wheaton at different times. They stole both of them. And then I've got Alex Ortega, who's now at Amherst, and I brought in Keegan Anjavan, who was at DePaul, and then I have a kind of a steady assistant coach, Celia Mosier, who's our goalkeeper coach. Everybody's making a big deal about these female coaches getting jobs, and I'm like, we've had a female goalkeeper coach, for 6 years. I want her to get some press. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, really?
She's killing it.
I had I'm sorry. I should have done I didn't realize that.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not. That's my point. Like, you didn't know about it because, like, who's talking about her?
Yeah.
She's awesome. Everybody in the area knows it. She's the director of goalkeeping for the Richmond Strikers. Okay, and she's the assistant coach for the men's and women's team at Randolph-Macon. She doesn't recruit for us because it just doesn't allow for that. But she trains our goalkeepers have such an advantage here because they get specialized goalkeeper training, dedicated coach, But I'm like, like a couple weeks ago, I kept seeing it like on social media, and I know they're head jobs, I get it, but it's like, we have a female coach that's been crushing it here, and is probably the best coach on our staff, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, according to her, she is. But it's I want her to get some press and some love.
Well, I want to give her press because I'm trying to organize a virtual roundtable of goalkeeper knowledgeable coaches or goalkeeper coaches to just go through and talk about the top 10 characteristics of a good goalkeeper for them. So I have a lot more in my head than it is on paper. So if you could mention that to her, that at some point I'll probably either reach out to you or reach out to her directly if her email's up there. Because I would love to have her. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, she'll be great for that. She'll be great. Even like our rivals in the conference love her. They're like, you're so lucky to have her.
Yeah.
I heard the Hampton Sydney coach was watching her. I heard the Hampton Sydney coach went to one of her sessions the other night. She's the best. She's the best. She's great.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to do that. I'm hoping to do that in the next month or so. So, hey, let's shift over to recruiting, some general recruiting stuff. Do you know those recruiting companies, the NC,
I know.
Whatever?
I know.
You know the ones that send you all the emails, more so than me. Do you use them at all? I mean, do they provide any value to you, or is your recruiting just the old school? I'm going to go to games and.
I mean, I used to just hit when their emails used to come through. I used to just hit delete. To be honest with you. Now there's one Sport Recruit USA, I think it is. They seem to be doing it a little different, where they're putting ex-college coaches. Sort of in the ranks, and they're sort of hustling and actually developing relationships with the kids and trying to place them. They call it like the hashtag right fit. I'm keeping an open mind with them for right now. We haven't got any players from it.
Yeah.
But it seems like that's more they're sort of everyone's doing things, you know, in business to make money, but it seems like their business model is, you know, definitely to benefit the client also. So I keep an open mind, but for the most part, I haven't used them, and I don't really know. I don't want to speak for any other coaches, but I just personally haven't used them. Now, some kids will you sort of use it in a way that their video is linked to the, you know, recruiting service site. So to get there, you got to go to the site to see the video. But, you know, some of these things are just crazy. Like this last tournament I was at the ECNL one.
Yeah.
It was a great tournament. But the app that they were using, I personally couldn't find the kid's email in there. I could only find the email link that was forcing me to email the kid through the app. Do you think we want to do that?
No.
We already have to manage 100 apps as it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, so like now when you go to these tournaments, getting the player profile brochure in your hand from the team is like gold, because I don't want to use an app to find, you know, like, then there's a different app for every tournament. It's not like it's one app for every tournament. You know, so I was like, oh, I'm going to email the kid. Oh, wait. To do it, all I can do is click email, and it emails him through the app. I can never see his actual email address.
Yeah.
You know, what's up with that? I don't like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just, you know, so no, I don't really use the services, but yes, I think there are some things, you know, developing where it could benefit some players if the service does a good job. Like I think the one I mentioned is trying to do.
Yeah. Hey, did you? And I keep thinking back to when you were saying about how important team chemistry is for you, and how you don't recruit kids that you think are going to disrupt that team chemistry. Do you have experience where you said no to a kid because you thought he would be bad for team chemistry that came back to haunt you during the season? Either, you know, just play really well against you?
Yeah, but I'll take that loss any day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a long-term thing, right? Like,
yeah.
What if I would have we lost the game on the day, right? But what would the consequences have been had that kid been in our program? Now, maybe he wouldn't have been a team chemistry killer, but if I thought he was going, I have to do with what I think. You know, I'm not a crystal ball, right? Like, but at the same time, like, it stinks because the kid beat you on the day, but it's on the day. Right? If you start getting problems within, you know, fractures within your team, cracks within the armor, right? It can all fall apart pretty quickly. So I don't want to take a loss, but if that's the kid that beats us, I'll sleep fine at night. Now, I have made mistakes on kids that were good players that is not a character issue, that we didn't recruit, and that is awful. So
that they were good players, you don't think they were big character killers, but you just didn't recruit.
I'm going to tell you the worst one I ever did. I paid my penance for it though. So way back, I'm trying to think of the exact dates, but there was a player for the Virginia Legacy club team, and he didn't get a lot of playing time on the club team. And my assistant at Hampton-Sydney is like, he's not any good. And then every time I went to see him, he was never getting any playing time. I was like, oh, forget this guy. Like, he's not good enough. We didn't recruit him. We were like, let him go. Guess who was the ODAC Player of the Year? All-American, 50 goals. Corey Sindel. So when we tried to prepare for him in games, and this is also the worst part. Like, he's a small little scrawny guy. What a player.
Yeah.
Right? So like, as I'm getting my Sydney team ready to play, they're like, oh, he's terrible. I'm like, what? He's terrible. He's one of the best 5 players in the country. So he would kill us every time we played him. And when I got the Randolph-Macon job, he actually worked some of my camps when I was at Hampton-Sydney, and he was my best worker, like better than my guys there. You know, so I'm like, this kid has no reason. He has no reason to be the best worker. So when I got the Randolph-Macon job, Corey was working at UPS, and all these people were asking me about the job. for the assistant coach job, and I was kind of like, I don't know, like I can't get this hire wrong. I got to get this hire right.
Yeah.
So I called Corey at UPS and was like, dude, I need you. And he's like, I never thought about coaching. Anyway, I talked him out of a good job at UPS, probably had a pension, I don't know. And I took him on as my assistant here at Randolph-Macon. And in those first 2 years, you know, he was a huge part of what we did, you know, because he had won a championship in the ODAC. He had been to the NCAA tournament. He had been an All-American, you know, and he had been the marginalized player that sat on the bench at club for whatever reason, you know. And I'm not judging his club coach because I made the same mistake, right? But it's like he also knew how to win and how to sort of instill that belief, because when he went to Randolph College, which not to be confused with Randolph-Macon, right? When he went there, they were sort of just building their program, and then they took off. They had some nasty teams, you know, back then, and now they're good too. I'm not saying that, but Corey was he was a stud. So that's that's how I did my penance. That was a huge recruiting mistake. I mean, we'd probably still be playing if he was on some of those teams. And in that era, my teams were good.
Yeah.
You know,
you could have been really that good. Next level, that next 1% or 5%. Right.
You know, that was a big mistake.
Is he still coaching?
He's not in coaching anymore. He went off to Wheaton, Mass. Worked for his old coach at Randolph, Brian Wagner. Brian's an awesome coach. Brian's an awesome coach. And now my assistant that was after Corey, like I said before, Andrew Schaefer, he's at Wheaton with Brian. You know, because their position it's more highly funded. And,
right.
You know, it's good to get in a different region too.
So,
you know, he's there too.
Okay, and you made a comment before about showcase tournaments. Do you have any thoughts on all of the showcases that are out there? Are they good, bad?
Oh yeah, they're great. I mean, they're necessary, but I mean, there's just so many of them now. Like, we have to watch. Even like our budgets can only sustain so much. You know, we're recruiting all the time, and it's like you got the MLS Next event over here, then you got the ECNL event over here, then you've got EDP over there, and then you've got National League. We got to go to all of them, but it's really not efficient for the college coaches. But those leagues aren't in business for the college coaches. Okay, they're in business to be their own league, make money, and that type of thing. So it's like they all do a good job in their own right, but they don't really cross over, and it's added to the amount of events that we have to go to.
Yeah.
You know, and then some of them will have these big events, and then they'll have a small event like a week later with the same teams. You know, it's like, do we go to that? A lot of times, recruiting is a war of attrition, so you got to go and show your face. You got to go and show your face, even if you've seen the kid play 15 times. But there has started to become a point for me where I'm like, I've seen you enough. I've offered you your spot.
That's
and we're not going to get you or not get you versus me coming to this one game or not. But I am a hustler in recruiting. Don't misunderstand me. I have to be. You know, I have to be, because kids aren't just walking in the door here like they do in some schools. You know, that have like whatever that just that big national name. Like we got to. Randolph-Macon is on that level, but we have to show the kid. He doesn't just know it from being a household name. You know, so we have to show the kid what we can offer off the field, as well as on the field. But these they're you know, the Jefferson Cup is awesome. The NCFC Showcase is awesome. This ECNL event you were at, great event. You know, great event. MLS Next, I mean, you know, they didn't schedule their games the way I would have liked. I mean, all the U17 games were like in 2 different time blocks in one day. You know what I mean? Like ECNL, there was U17 games in every single time block. So I was able to sit there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and really watch kids, and get the most bang for our buck there. So I appreciated the way that they organized the event. It's just that there's so many of them.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, I assume you do ID camps.
Yeah.
How big of a deal are those for you? And for the recruit?
Well, for us, it's been good. We used to run a huge camp here, multi-college, 3 days, 2 nights, and COVID sort of wrecked that, right? Like we were getting a lot of kids, we were placing kids, we were getting recruits from it. Kids were ending up at other schools. And we were sort of slick about it. We were trying to bring in schools that weren't really competing with us for kids as much. So different types of schools.
Right.
Like we still compete a little bit, but we weren't
Right.
bringing in our arch rival or whoever.
Yeah.
You know.
Hampton Sydney was not
State-
participating.
No, or like state schools, you know.
Yeah.
We weren't bringing them in, but now we run a couple one-day ID camps that are just RMC specific, no other coaches, and we tell the kids that, and we tell the kids, if you're not interested in Randolph-Macon, do not come to this camp. That wasn't the same message with our multi
Yeah.
ID camp, right? And it's like, those camps we've done really well from those camps from a recruiting standpoint. You know, it's like, it's not so much that we have to ID the kid anymore sometimes. It's another interaction to get them on campus. But the other thing is, like, for us, we do a good job getting the right players at the ID camp if we're lucky enough to have a high caliber one, and the last few we've had have been pretty good. They see other kids that we're recruiting. So a kid from Charlotte sees a kid from Pennsylvania, and he's like, "Oh, that kid's pretty good." Well, when that kid commits, we can tell the kid from Charlotte, "Hey, man, you remember this dude from camp from PA? He's coming. Oh, he's good." Now that kid that legitimizes us more in that kid's eyes. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah. Totally.
So they've been good from that standpoint. But even now, finding a date, we already had to move ours once. We've never had to move it at camp before. We already had to move our camp once. Even to find a date in the summer, to where the kids are not tied up with MLS Next, DCNL, National League, this West Virginia thing that's going on.
Yeah.
You know, that's even been challenging. You know, it's like there used to be a little bit of a time where kids had chances not just to do our ID camp, but to do other schools' ID camps, which is what they should be doing. But I feel like that window of time is really shrinking on these kids. You know, to be able to get out to the college specific ID camps.
Yeah.
But ours have been good for us from a recruiting standpoint.
I mean, the calendar is ridiculous. Like, showcases and then the different camps. I'm working through it with my son right now. I was just trying to, for July, just the month of July. And now we think, I mean, it's like, yeah, we'll go here. No, we can't go there because we're going this. But like, it's painful.
It is.
Do you have any thoughts on high school soccer? Do you like it? Do you not?
Well, I used to, again, I guess back in my Hampton Sydney days, I lived at high school games. There was the Dominion District. It was kind of close to the area. All the teams were good. I don't have anything against high school soccer at all. I went to a game the other night, but I went to watch one of our committed guys play. It was like the regional final. He played great. He tore it up, but it's just that with so many other events, and there's a ton of kids that just aren't even playing high school anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like we don't go to as many games as we used to. I'll say it that way. And with that being said, you know, we went down to a high school game in North Carolina this past fall, and we ended up getting one of our top recruits from it, and he wasn't the kid we were there to watch. We got that kid too. But that kid had come to our ID camp, and they were friends on the same team. So it definitely has value. But I don't know how you can go to, you know, with a staff of me and one assistant that recruits, how you can go to all those high school games, all these events, all these camps. Something's got to give. So if something's got to give, the first thing to give for me is high school soccer. But I still try to get out to some games when I can. It's just not like it used to be.
Yeah. Okay.
I sound like the old guy now, like saying it's not like it used to be. You know, I was a young coach. Now I'm 43. I was 23 like yesterday. But I just said it's not like it used to be. I heard it come out of my mouth a couple times.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I volunteer as an assistant for our local high school, and I'm a big fan, and it has nothing to do with soccer, right? And I think a lot of people look at it through those eyes, like what you're watching, the type of soccer, how good, the quality. I think there's merit to that, but I think more importantly is how do you see a kid in an environment? You know, he's got friends, family, you know, it's much different than the club game now. Like, club games are kind of like, I don't want to say generic. Definitely
No.
MLS Next is,
Listen,
it's...
At the ECNL event, right, I watched the PDA scores this like awesome goal. They make it 3-1, and
Yeah.
they're like, barely clapping.
Yeah.
They're like, and I turned to like there was a coach next to me, and I was like, did the goal count? And he's like, yeah. And I'm kind of like, well, wasn't that a little anticlimactic? Like the game itself was intense. He's like, dude, these guys do this every weekend. And then I went to that high school game to watch my guy play, right?
Yep.
And the game got delayed by lightning for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna kill this guy. I'm at this game like till
Yeah.
like 11:30 at night now.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
The kid's already coming here.
Yeah.
So the game, like, first of all, it was a good game. It was
Mm-hmm.
Lansdowne versus James River. Okay, it was a
Mm-hmm.
great game. But it was like the atmosphere, and this is after being delayed. So some people probably
Yeah.
went home, but a lot of kids came back. You just don't get that anywhere
Yeah.
else, but in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So I mean, from that perspective,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable, right? Like
Unbelievable.
athlete experience that we all talk about in college, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
That experience for a high school kid,
Yeah.
you could play on a semi-competitive team with your friends.
Yeah.
Everyone's coming to watch. Like,
Yeah.
you just don't get that in the way club soccer is structured, and probably
Yeah.
never will get that. So it is awesome from that perspective, without a doubt. That's really, really cool.
By the way, that if it's the same PDA that you watched that was my son's team, we're told as parents on the sideline that all we can do is, like, hey, we can't say anything. Like, so, all of us are gun shy. But anyhow, Coach, I'm going to take whatever information on your website, your camps, all that stuff, and I'll put it down below in the description. Hey, look, thanks. I really enjoyed this. This was fun. I really loved your school. I do have to ask, are you in the press box of the field? Like, I noticed
it's a little dark, but I can see it's probably a little dark to see me sometimes. But I am in the press box, and I came in the press box because it's like Grand Central Station where my office is, and it is crazy, right? Like, I mean, if I was in there, it's insane in there, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, even like my AD, he'll just come in the middle of the interview and start talking to me. He doesn't care. He'll be like, hey, I don't care if you're doing an interview. So I have to hide.
Yeah.
Where am I going to hide? And I'm hiding in the press box. But yeah, I saw you were at the field. So the grass field, that's a practice field right now. For men's and women's soccer. It needs some work to be game ready. My dream is for that field to be them to fix. It's got some drainage issues, nothing that can't be fixed. That field to be fixed and to be lit and enclosed, and we'll have one of the best grass facilities in the country. But the other field that you were on, that's our game.
The turf.
Turf.
Yeah, the
I'm
turf
looking
field.
out at that right now.
Yeah.
That's men's soccer, women's soccer, and field hockey. But this year, it looks a little messy when you came out here, to be honest. And I was like, oh my God, like he came to the school. But the reason it looks like that is because we're doing a bunch of construction. We've invested.
I saw that too, like the football stadium right there.
So that's lacrosse plays over there too, right? And we train there sometimes, but we put millions of dollars over there. We're building this new facility, Duke Hall. But because of the construction, lacrosse was not able to play their games over there. So they used our field. So there's lacrosse lines painted on our field that aren't normally here. There's also lacrosse goals out here. And we have the international competition goals for soccer.
Yeah.
Those had to be taken out. They're tied up against the post. So it's like a goal wasteland right now. But
well, that's what I said. I'm like, I think this is a soccer field because there's a ton of goals around here.
Yeah, it is, and it is, and we're lucky we have such great facilities. And some schools, I don't know how they do it, but they got one turf field for all their sports. Or they, and some of them have football. Even the schools that don't. I'm like, man, they practice at 9:00 at night. That kind of stinks. So we're lucky in the sense that we have these great facilities, and we keep making them better. And I'm pumped to get this grass field done one day. But until then, like, we've got a really good facility here with the turf, and it used to be a grass field, but we turfed it, and it looks good.
The whole complex was really neat. The athletic part, and I really liked, the football lacrosse stadium being right dead center of campus. But I will say something about the grass field. I was looking at it, and I could see that they had done some work to it, like they had, I don't know, aerated or something, the field. And I was looking around, and I was like, if this is the game field, I would love to play there because you could. It has the feet. I mean, it's relatively flat. It's grass,
Oh
right?
no,
Like it's got all
listen,
those things. So
that feels way better than when you saw it. We've just sprayed out the cold weather grass to kill it. To let the Bermuda's not even in.
yeah.
So
Oh wow.
when that Bermuda comes in, that
Oh,
field looks sick.
sick.
But
Yeah.
again, it's not really game ready from a
Ready.
drainage
Yeah.
standpoint, but it
Yeah.
is a great field. It's
Yeah.
got all the potential. I appreciate you checking it out and saying
Yeah.
that. But one day we're going to get
Yeah.
it. We're going to get it to be the game field.
The whole campus was. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was walking around like, wow, this is so. I mean, it's a beautiful place, and obviously all the construction and stuff like that. And like I said, Coach, are you going to offer me a spot? Because I'll show up, next year or in 2 months and play to just go there for a year.
Man, you might be able to with all the eligibility extensions. Everybody,
Hey, no, but look, I'll dye my hair with some Grecian formula or something like that. No one's gonna know.
I mean, at this point, it's like the Wild West. But I mean, I know these kids deserve that extra year. I'm not.
Yeah.
That kid's gonna be there again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A couple more years.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Thank you very much again. Really do appreciate you taking the time. And next time I'm down in that way, or you come up to a tournament up this way, let me know. I'd love to hook up, maybe do lunch or something, have some drinks.
You got it.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.